ladies and gentlemen. Let's take a moment to reflect on something that's often easier said than done: knowing when to walk away. The idea of giving up on someone you love, someone you've invested in, can feel like an impossible decision. We cling to hope, to the memories, to the promise of change. But today I want to ask you to consider something different. What if giving someone another chance isn't the answer? What if the best way forward is choosing yourself? I'm here to talk about the 5 behaviors that may not just be signals, but warnings. Warnings that you deserve to be treated with the respect, love, and kindness that are inherent in healthy partnerships. In any relationship, whether romantic, familial, or even professional, one of the most essential aspects of healthy connection is the establishment and respect of boundaries. Boundaries are not walls or barriers meant to isolate us. They are, in fact, the foundation upon which we build the safety and trust necessary for any meaningful relationship. They reflect our sense of self, our needs, our values, and ultimately our worth. To value your boundaries means to respect them first and foremost within yourself and expect that same respect from others. When boundaries are respected, you allow yourself to thrive and grow, knowing that your space, emotional needs, and well-being are secure. Boundaries are often misunderstood or minimized, especially in relationships where one partner may not fully understand their importance or the role they play in emotional health. The truth is, boundaries define what is acceptable and what is not. They help you protect your physical and emotional energy, keeping you grounded in who you are and what you need to feel safe and supported. When you set clear boundaries, you're giving yourself the permission to honor your feelings, your space, and your needs without guilt or shame. You are telling yourself and the people around you that you matter. The challenge, however, comes when those boundaries are disrespected, when we begin to tolerate behaviors or actions that make us uncomfortable. We start to erode our own sense of self-respect. It's easy to justify someone else's disregard for your boundaries because you care for them or you want to avoid conflict. But this is where the risk lies. If you consistently allow someone to cross your boundaries, you teach them that your limits are negotiable. You teach them that it's okay to disregard your needs for their convenience or comfort. Over time, this creates an imbalance of power where one partner's needs always take precedence and the other is left feeling depleted, unheard, and unimportant. The important thing to remember is that your boundaries are not negotiable. This doesn't mean you should be rigid or unwilling to compromise, but it does mean you should never settle for being mistreated or disrespected. When you allow others to trample on your boundaries, you are telling them that you are not worthy of the same consideration that you offer them. It's crucial to understand that in a healthy relationship, both parties must be willing to honor each other's limits. If they refuse or continue to push against them, it is an indication that they may not respect you as you deserve to be respected. Learning to value your boundaries requires self-awareness and self-compassion. It means understanding your emotional needs and physical limits and having the courage to stand by them even when it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it means having difficult conversations or setting firm lines in the sand that may feel awkward or even create temporary tension. But in the long run, setting these boundaries is an act of love for yourself and for the relationship. Because the truth is, without respect for boundaries, the foundation of any relationship becomes fragile and unstable. If your boundaries are repeatedly ignored or violated, it's a signal that the relationship may not be serving you in the way you need it to. It's not about being unreasonable or asking for too much. It's about recognizing your worth and demanding that your needs are met. You deserve to be in a space where your emotional safety is valued and where your partner respects you enough to listen when you say no or this is not okay. Only by valuing your own boundaries can you begin to expect others to do the same, creating a relationship dynamic based on mutual respect, trust, and understanding. Trust is the cornerstone of any meaningful relationship. Without it, everything else is fragile and unstable. Trust isn't something that can be easily repaired once it's broken, nor is it something that can be taken for granted. It's built slowly with consistent actions, transparency, and mutual respect. When trust is genuine, it creates a sense of safety and security where both individuals can be vulnerable and open without fear of betrayal or dishonesty. Trust allows people to connect on a deeper level, knowing that their emotional and physical well-being is valued and protected. The nature of trust is such that it's not just about believing in someone's words, it's about their actions aligning with those words. Trust is built in the everyday, seemingly small moments where integrity and honesty are consistently demonstrated. It's the quiet assurance that your partner is who they say they are, and that their actions reflect their promises. Over time, this consistency builds a foundation that is difficult to shake, and it makes the relationship stronger and more resilient. Once trust is broken, it becomes incredibly difficult to repair. A lie, an act of betrayal, or any behavior that shakes the foundation of trust leaves a scar. That scar may not always be visible, but it's there, and the effects ripple through every interaction. It's important to understand that trust is fragile, and it's not something that should be treated lightly. When trust is violated, it creates doubt and uncertainty in the relationship, making it harder to feel safe, secure, or confident in the connection. The emotional toll it takes can be profound, leaving you questioning not only your partner, but also your own judgment and worth. Even more damaging than a single betrayal is the repeated violation of trust. When someone consistently breaks promises, manipulates the truth, or behaves in ways that are untrustworthy, it signals a deeper issue. At this point, it's no longer about a single mistake, it's about a pattern of behavior that shows a lack of respect for the other person's emotional safety. The more trust is violated, the harder it becomes to rebuild it because the foundation becomes increasingly unstable. Every time trust is broken, it erodes the relationship further, and the emotional cost becomes more significant. Trust isn't something you can bargain or compromise on. Once it's lost, you can't simply demand it back. It must be earned, and that process is long, difficult, and often fraught with setbacks. Rebuilding trust requires a deep commitment to honesty, vulnerability, and change. And it's not enough to say, "I'm sorry," and expect everything to go back to normal. True remorse and a desire to change must be demonstrated through consistent, trustworthy behavior over time. Anything less is simply a temporary fix that won't heal the wound of betrayal. If someone repeatedly betrays your trust, it's a clear signal that they are not willing or capable of providing the emotional security you deserve. Trust is non-negotiable because without it, the foundation of the relationship is compromised. You cannot move forward in a healthy partnership if trust is consistently broken or withheld. It's crucial to understand that your well-being and your peace of mind are more important than holding on to a relationship that continually puts your trust at risk. Trust is earned, and if it's repeatedly violated, it's not just a mistake, it's a reflection of how that person values you and your emotional safety. In a healthy relationship, trust should be a given, not something you have to fight for. Accountability is the bedrock of integrity in any relationship. It is the willingness to take responsibility for one's actions, acknowledge mistakes, and make the necessary changes to grow and improve. When accountability is present, it fosters trust, respect, and understanding between partners. It shows maturity and self-awareness and strengthens the foundation of the relationship. Without it, relationships become riddled with excuses, blame, and dishonesty, which can slowly erode the connection between two people. In healthy relationships, accountability means owning up to your mistakes, regardless of how difficult it may be. It's easy to pass the blame, to justify actions, or to make excuses when things go wrong. But when you are unwilling to take responsibility for your actions, it not only damages your credibility, but it also undermines the trust between you and your partner. It's about facing the consequences of your behavior with honesty and vulnerability. When we offer excuses instead of accountability, we avoid confronting the truth of our actions, leaving our partners to wonder if they can ever rely on us. An excuse is an attempt to deflect responsibility, to avoid the discomfort of facing the impact of our choices. However, in relationships, deflecting responsibility only leads to unresolved issues and emotional distance. The problem with constantly making excuses is that it shows a lack of respect for your partner's feelings and experiences. Excuses can be manipulative. They often try to make the other person feel guilty for being upset or for expecting accountability. "It wasn't my fault," or "you're overreacting," are common phrases used to deflect responsibility. These excuses place the blame on the other person instead of owning up to the behavior that caused harm. When this pattern is repeated, it leads to frustration, confusion, and resentment. It creates an unhealthy cycle where the person who is being wronged feels unheard and invalidated, and the person who is making excuses avoids the necessary self-reflection and growth. Accountability, on the other hand, is about taking ownership of your actions and understanding their impact on the other person. It involves looking at yourself with honesty and humility, recognizing where you've gone wrong, and being willing to make changes. It requires courage to admit mistakes, especially when you know they may hurt your partner or damage the trust between you. But it's also through accountability that healing begins. When both partners in a relationship can be accountable for their actions, it leads to growth, mutual respect, and deeper connection. Owning up to mistakes can be uncomfortable. It's not always easy to admit that you've done something wrong, especially when it feels like it could jeopardize the relationship. But avoiding accountability, whether by making excuses or deflecting blame, only prolongs the tension and prevents resolution. It's a way of avoiding the discomfort of facing the truth. However, growth only happens when we are willing to step into that discomfort and make the effort to change. When both partners are committed to accountability, they can address the issues that arise, learn from them, and move forward with greater understanding and compassion. Excuses are often a sign of avoidance or fear of confrontation, fear of being judged, or fear of losing the relationship. But the truth is, avoiding accountability only damages the relationship further. It creates walls between you and your partner and fosters an environment where growth and healing are impossible. True love and connection cannot flourish in an atmosphere of constant blame and deflection. Accountability is the antidote to this, and it's what allows both people to feel safe and valued, knowing that their experiences and feelings will be acknowledged, respected, and addressed. Promises are easy to make, but much harder to keep. Words have power, but it's the consistency of actions that truly defines the strength and health of a partnership. While promises may offer hope and reassurance in the moment, they can easily become empty gestures if they are not backed up by consistent behavior. Over time, it's not the words that matter most, but the patterns that emerge. The way a person shows up in your life day after day, week after week, is far more important than the temporary comfort of promises made in fleeting moments of vulnerability. It's natural to want to believe that the promises we hear from our partners will be honored. We want to believe that change is possible, that things will get better, and that the next time will be different. However, if the patterns of behavior don't match the promises being made, we must learn to see the truth. People can promise all they want, but if their actions consistently contradict their words, it becomes clear that their promises are simply a way to appease us in the moment, not a reflection of real intention or commitment. When a partner repeatedly tells you they'll change but continues to behave in the same way, their promises lose credibility. The cycle of hope followed by disappointment can be exhausting. And it's often in these moments that we must step back and ask ourselves, are we placing our faith in words or in the actual patterns of behavior we're seeing? When we allow ourselves to be swept up in promises alone, we risk ignoring the repeated actions that may be harmful to our well-being. Words can sound reassuring, even convincing, but patterns of behavior speak the truth. It's easy to fall into the trap of waiting for the next time when things will improve, but if we continue to make excuses for someone's repeated failures to follow through, we are only postponing our own growth and happiness. The longer we wait for change, the more we are validating the belief that we can settle for something less than we deserve. A pattern of unfulfilled promises becomes a subtle form of emotional manipulation, where we are made to believe that things will get better, despite evidence to the contrary. Recognizing patterns over promises doesn't mean we stop believing in the potential for growth or change in a partner. It simply means that we base our trust and decisions on tangible evidence, not empty words. It means understanding that true change takes time, consistency, and a genuine willingness to evolve, not just promises made when things get difficult or when guilt sets in. Healthy relationships thrive on actions that reflect the values and commitments both partners share. A pattern of kindness, respect, understanding, and effort is far more valuable than words spoken in moments of tension designed to placate or reassure. When you begin to trust patterns over promises, you free yourself from the cycle of waiting and hoping for something that may never come to fruition. It allows you to take a step back and assess whether the relationship is truly meeting your needs and whether your partner is genuinely invested in making the changes they've promised. It's important to remember that your time, energy, and emotions are valuable. You deserve a partner who not only speaks of change, but demonstrates it through their actions. Words alone, no matter how comforting, will never be enough if the patterns of behavior don't align with them. If you continue to see the same disappointing patterns, it becomes clear that your partner may not be capable of offering what you need, or they simply aren't committed to making the changes necessary to create a healthy, thriving relationship. In these moments, you must make the choice to prioritize your own well-being and stop settling for promises that go unfulfilled. Trust in the consistency of actions, because it's the patterns you see that ultimately shape the future of the relationship, not the empty assurances given when things are good. Self-respect is the foundation of a healthy, fulfilling life, and it must come first in any relationship. When we respect ourselves, we acknowledge our worth and place value on our own needs, boundaries, and emotional well-being. This isn't about being selfish or disregarding others. Rather, it's about recognizing that you cannot give your best to others unless you first take care of yourself. Self-respect is not only the key to maintaining your dignity, but also the bedrock upon which healthy, balanced relationships can be built. The challenge for many people, particularly in intimate relationships, is that self-respect can often become secondary to the needs or desires of the other person. We may sacrifice our own values, opinions, or feelings in the name of love or commitment, believing that putting ourselves last is a form of loyalty or devotion. But the truth is that when we neglect our own self-respect, we undermine the very foundation of our happiness. If we constantly place ourselves in a position where we allow others to disregard our feelings, needs, or boundaries, we begin to lose sight of who we are and what we deserve. Self-respect is about recognizing your worth and not allowing others to treat you in ways that diminish it. It's about knowing that you are deserving of love, kindness, and respect, not as a concession or favor from others, but because of who you are. When you have a strong sense of self-respect, you make choices that honor your needs and values. You don't compromise your beliefs or emotions in an attempt to please someone else, nor do you allow yourself to be manipulated or controlled. The moment we allow ourselves to be treated in a way that goes against our values, we send a message to ourselves that we don't believe we are worth more. It's easy to fall into the trap of losing oneself and the other person. This often happens gradually with the small compromises and sacrifices we make for the sake of the relationship. Over time, if you are not careful, you may begin to lose sight of your own goals, dreams, and desires as you prioritize the other person's needs above your own. This can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and even emotional exhaustion. You might feel as though you've given so much of yourself that there is nothing left. This is not healthy, and it's a sure sign that self-respect has been compromised. Self-respect is a protective shield that helps you stay grounded and true to yourself. When you respect yourself, you are less likely to tolerate behaviors that are hurtful, disrespectful, or dismissive of your needs. It doesn't mean that you expect perfection from others or that you don't offer love and forgiveness when necessary. It simply means that you are not willing to accept mistreatment as a normal part of any relationship. You understand that relationships should be reciprocal, where both partners are valued, respected, and cared for equally. Putting self-respect first is not about putting up walls or building emotional distance. In fact, it enables you to engage more authentically with others. When you respect yourself, you create a strong, healthy foundation for any relationship to grow from. You are able to enter into connections with others not from a place of need or insecurity, but from a place of confidence and strength. You know what you need, and you are able to communicate that with clarity and conviction. By valuing yourself, you also teach others how to treat you, and you set the standard for the kind of respect you expect in return. Self-respect must always come first. Without it, it's nearly impossible to build healthy, sustainable relationships. You cannot give to others what you do not have for yourself. When you consistently put yourself first in the sense of protecting your emotional health, setting clear boundaries, and honoring your needs, you create the space for deeper, more meaningful connections with others. Your self-respect lays the groundwork for relationships that are based on mutual care, love, and understanding, rather than sacrifice and self-neglect. Empathy and manipulation are two vastly different approaches to interacting with others, especially in relationships. Empathy is rooted in understanding, compassion, and connection, while manipulation is rooted in control, deceit, and self-interest. At their core, empathy fosters genuine emotional bonds, while manipulation seeks to exploit those emotions for personal gain. Understanding the difference between these two can not only help you protect yourself from harmful dynamics, but also guide you toward building more authentic, fulfilling connections. Empathy is the ability to deeply understand and share the feelings of another person. It requires putting yourself in someone else's shoes, seeing the world through their eyes, and acknowledging their pain or joy without judgment. When someone shows empathy, they listen attentively, respond with compassion, and offer support that aligns with the other person's needs and emotions. Empathy creates a safe space where people feel heard, valued, and cared for. It's a selfless act. There's no agenda behind it, no expectation of receiving something in return. The goal is simply to connect on a human level, to offer comfort and understanding. Manipulation, on the other hand, is a calculated and often covert tactic used to control or influence someone for the manipulator's own benefit. Rather than considering the other person's feelings or needs, manipulation centers around what the manipulator wants to achieve, regardless of how it affects the other person. Manipulators use emotional appeals, guilt, flattery, or even lies to sway the other person's thoughts or actions. Their aim is to exploit vulnerabilities, create dependency, or distort reality to make the other person feel responsible for the manipulator's emotions, desires, or actions. The manipulator rarely has the other person's well-being in mind. Instead, they focus on their own personal agenda, often at the expense of the other person's emotions or boundaries. While empathy builds trust, connection, and mutual respect, manipulation erodes these very qualities. Manipulation creates an environment of uncertainty and confusion, where the person being manipulated begins to question their own perceptions, feelings, and boundaries. This can lead to emotional exhaustion, self-doubt, and a lack of confidence in their ability to make decisions. Over time, manipulation can create an unhealthy dynamic where one person becomes the puppet master, pulling the strings of the other without their awareness or consent. The most insidious aspect of manipulation is that it often masquerades as empathy. A manipulator may pretend to be concerned, offering seemingly heartfelt gestures or words of comfort, but the underlying motive is always self-serving. They might say, "I just want what's best for you," or "I only do this because I care," when in reality their actions are designed to meet their own needs. This false appearance of empathy makes it difficult for the person being manipulated to recognize the harmful behavior. They may feel guilty for not reciprocating the manipulator's supposed kindness, or feel responsible for the manipulator's emotional state. The manipulator uses this to their advantage, drawing the person further into their web of control. True empathy, however, does not expect anything in return. It does not demand that the other person change or accommodate the needs of the one showing empathy. Empathy respects the autonomy of others, recognizing that their emotions and needs are valid, and offering support in a way that aligns with their true desires. It involves a willingness to listen without judgment, to offer compassion without expecting the other person to meet your own emotional needs in return. The key difference between empathy and manipulation lies in intention. Empathy seeks to understand and support, while manipulation seeks to exploit and control. When you find yourself in a relationship where manipulation is taking place, it's important to recognize it and set clear boundaries. Trust your instincts. If you feel that your emotions are being used against you, or that your kindness is being exploited for someone else's gain, it's crucial to step back and reassess the dynamic. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, empathy, and understanding, not on manipulation, guilt, or control. Empathy nurtures relationships, fostering a sense of security and mutual care. Manipulation, on the other hand, destroys trust and creates emotional chaos. By understanding the difference between the two, you can make better choices about who to trust and how to protect your emotional well-being. In any relationship, whether personal or professional, the presence of empathy leads to authentic connection, while manipulation only leads to exploitation and emotional harm. Growth is an essential part of a fulfilling life, and it is the driving force behind progress, change, and personal development. Without growth, life becomes static, and the potential for joy, fulfillment, and transformation is stifled. Growth doesn't always mean dramatic changes or breakthroughs. It often manifests as small, consistent steps forward, each one contributing to the evolution of who we are. It's a continuous process, not something that happens once and is then finished. Stagnation, on the other hand, occurs when we stop evolving, when we become complacent with the status quo and resist change, whether out of fear, comfort, or insecurity. In relationships, personal development, and even in our career paths, choosing growth over stagnation is vital for creating a dynamic, fulfilling life. Growth requires us to step outside of our comfort zones and challenge ourselves, to confront our fears and limitations, and to question what is no longer serving us. It demands introspection, self-awareness, and the willingness to adapt to new circumstances. Embracing growth means that we are open to learning, even when it's uncomfortable. Whether it's improving our emotional intelligence, expanding our skills, or evolving our perspectives, growth pushes us to keep moving forward, even when the road is uncertain. The beauty of growth lies in its ability to transform obstacles into opportunities for learning. Every challenge becomes an invitation to evolve, to refine our character, and to build resilience. Stagnation, on the other hand, occurs when we avoid challenges or when we become content with the way things are, even if they're not ideal. When we resist change, we stop evolving and the world around us starts to feel small and limiting. We may feel stuck in old patterns, holding on to beliefs or habits that no longer serve us. Stagnation can show up in many forms, staying in unhealthy relationships because we're afraid of being alone, avoiding career advancements because of self-doubt, or neglecting our mental and physical well-being because change seems too difficult. Over time, stagnation leads to dissatisfaction, frustration, and a sense of being disconnected from our own potential. One of the most significant aspects of growth is that it's not always linear. There are periods of setback, doubt, and even failure. But these moments are not signs that growth is impossible. Rather, they are the moments that challenge us to dig deeper, to rise again, and to continue moving forward. Growth involves embracing these moments of difficulty as part of the journey, rather than seeing them as insurmountable obstacles. It teaches us resilience, patience, and the power of perseverance. Those who choose growth understand that setbacks are not failures, they are simply part of the process. Growth requires us to evolve together with our partners, supporting each other and becoming the best versions of ourselves. When both people are committed to personal growth, the relationship thrives. It becomes a space where each person is encouraged to explore their potential, learn from their mistakes, and challenge themselves to grow, both individually and as a couple. Stagnation in relationships often shows up when one or both partners stop growing or become complacent with the current state of things. This can lead to resentment, disconnection, and a loss of excitement or passion. Growth also demands that we let go of limiting beliefs or past experiences that keep us from reaching our potential. It calls for self-compassion and the willingness to forgive ourselves for past mistakes. We have to recognize that growth is not about perfection, but about progress. And it's about becoming a better version of ourselves, one step at a time. It's about being open to new experiences, new perspectives, and new ways of being. It means recognizing when we've outgrown certain situations, people, or ways of thinking, and having the courage to make the necessary changes. Growth is a choice. It requires us to embrace discomfort, face our fears, and continuously push beyond our limitations. It's the decision to keep moving forward, even when the path is unclear. Stagnation, on the other hand, happens when we choose safety over growth, comfort over challenge, and complacency over change. To live a fulfilling life, growth must come first. It is the force that propels us forward, that fuels our dreams, and that enables us to live with purpose and passion. When we choose growth over stagnation, we choose to live a life full of possibilities, excitement, and potential.